Everything that I've learned since I became Muslim is that the entire gift of being Muslim, the entire gift of Islam came through our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that everyone that we've learned from has learned from him and learned from them and learned from them and learned from them. And so that chain is widely important. Usama Cannon stepped into the beginning of this year on sabbatical to begin to really start to tackle and address his medical condition. So for this team, we have been operating all year without that teacher. And so what became very evident to us this year is that we have always in our midst had the teachers of the teachers of the teachers. Two of those teachers, Dr. Umar Faruq Abd-Allah and Imam Zaid Shakir, hugely important to Taleef, have always been in the background to us, guiding us, leading us, teaching us. I certainly this year have not looked to try to replace Usama Cannon, but instead to realize where did he come from? And so really pulling out and opening up the doors for our teachers, for our scholars, and in this case, with Dr. Omar and Imam Zaid, we really consider them foundational scholars. They're foundational scholars of Taleef and have always been so. So really trying to now bring that forward. I have access to these incredible people, our team does, many in the community do, but I wanted to share the gift of Usama's teachers with everybody. So I feel it's actually, in a tiny way, I can be perhaps a channel for others that may not have that access, and then to bring it back through Taleef and the work that we do.
I think it's very important for us to see ourselves as links in a chain, and not only as a terminal link, but as a link that others after us are going to be connected to. And so that's a living chain and not a dead chain. It's a chain that will extend as long as there are human beings on this earth.
You may strive with all the sincerity possible to discover this religion on your own. And today there are a lot of beautiful things to read. And maybe you'll find it, but for most people, you've really got to have the teacher who takes you there and who gives you that kernel or that seed out of which the great plant and the great tree grow. Those of us who have had the honor to be in the company of great teachers are people who understand the value of transmission, because everything that we have that is good and life-giving and enlightening, it came from our teachers. They transformed us. They linked us to the people of the Senate, and they did that in real time. And they did that just by putting your hand in their hand, and their hand is in the hands of all those others that go back to the Prophet ﷺ.
Something very important is happening now. I want to say this because I think it's really a feather in Taleef's cap, and it's a feather in the cap of our dear brother Usama Cannon. If Taleef can make this transition from Taleef closely identified with Usama Cannon to Taleef, providing the services, providing the space, providing the role, filling the role that it has in the Muslim community as a viable, strong organization. I think it would be the first organization to really make the transition from the charismatic leadership to the stable organization. And that in and of itself is groundbreaking. That in and of itself is worthy of study. And that in and of itself is worthy of supporting Taleef to make sure that we can do this, because if we're able to do it, that means others can do it. And so that 12 years of effort doesn't fade away with the fading away of the founder, if you will.
Charismatic people, and our brother Usama is a charismatic person, and God cure him and give him total and complete health and strength. Charismatic people are absolutely essential as movers in history. There is no one in history more charismatic than the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And yet when we study his sunnah, we see that he always delegated authority. And in the end, he dropped the ball in the lap of the Sahaba and he left. And we might say, but there were so many things yet to do. You do it. This is the way that we all become mature. This is the way that we all become leaders, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. We follow in order to lead. We don't follow in order to be perpetual followers. We are follower leaders. And now is the time for so many of those who have been very sincere followers to lead. Now you've got to take this on your shoulders, and in Chicago and in Fremont and in Edmonton and elsewhere, you've got to make this work just as well as it worked in the past, and you've got to make it work better. Taleef cannot do its work of Taleef if it is nothing more than the work of a single great man.
If Taleef goes away, that sacrifice, not just Usama's, but I would say primarily Usama's, that sacrifice is lost. That connection to those who nurtured and to help Usama become Usama, that connection is lost. Once those connections are lost, you can't rebuild them. You can rebuild something that might be like Taleef, but it's not going to be Taleef. When we lose Islam, when we lose something like Taleef that's providing this space for people, we lose those people. We talk, the guy with the tattoo goes to the mosque and is chased out and told he's haram, he has to get rid of this. How are you going to get rid of all this? Give me a break. We lost that person. The sister comes in and she's struggling and, tell, sister, you need to cover your face. You're a fitna for these brothers. We lost that sister. The guy comes in, a little alcohol on his breath, and brother, you need to sober up before you come up in here. This is the masjid. We lost that brother in many instances. And we need everyone on the team. We can't afford these kind of losses. And so when we lose a space like Taleef, then we're losing potentially a whole lot of people who need that bridge. So I emphasize Taleef as bridge to the masjid, Taleef as bridge to the wider community. But if you lose that bridge, a lot of people can't traverse that chasm. And so they just fall to their death, spiritually speaking. So may Allah preserve Taleef, may Allah preserve the work that has been sacrificed, that has gone into it over those 12 years. The financial sacrifices, that's lost. It was for perpetuity. It wasn't just something we want to see 1 year. I'm investing so this thing continues. That's lost also. So may Allah bless us to preserve all of that effort, all of the financial sacrifices, the sacrifices of time, the sacrifices of energy, the sacrifices of humiliation in some instances. They're doing this, they're trying to change Islam, and there's public shaming in some instances that has to be worked through. All of those are sacrifices that people endure. And we lose the institution, then all of that goes for naught. So it behooves us, all of us, myself included, to do everything we possibly can to make sure that Taleef lives on.
There's always a silver lining. And although this tribulation of losing our brother's direct involvement has been difficult for all of us, and we all pray for him, but we know also that there's got to be a silver lining in this, for him and for us and for Taleef. And one of that is that we are going to show through the incredibly great and dynamic and charismatic leadership of our sister Diane, who has all the qualifications and more, that this is going to work forever. And that although we owe so much to the founder and to the founders, that it goes beyond them. It's bigger than them. And it will continue beyond our lives.